What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Love and Rice podcast with your host, Antma.
I'm your other host, Christina.
If you guys are new to this podcast, make sure you guys follow us and subscribe on YouTube, Apple, Amazon, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify. We are everywhere. Instagram, TikTok. So rate us on Spotify, comments on YouTube, and all the social media platforms, guys. Give us some support because we are here to keep doing this for you. And the only way we can do that is when we get your feedback. So we appreciate you guys listening to this podcast. I enjoy doing it. Today, we are going to be talking about working for yourself versus working for a company. And so there's a lot going on because you've done both. I've done both.
And I feel like this is such a hot topic right now for people because ever since the pandemic, people were kind of trying to figure out what they were going to do work-wise, right? Because employees couldn't be at the office, and then people started working from home, and I think people started to realize like there's just so much flexibility, and the lifestyle is just so different, like being home and doing your own thing, right? So I feel like people are kind of like back and forth trying to figure out which one is more like suitable for them.
Yeah. So on this episode, we kind of want to help you guys out if you are on the verge of trying to stop working for a company, or it's like, hey, my company is no longer letting us work from home, and now you're thinking about working for yourself. We'll help you guys to make that decision.
I think it's just more of giving clarity, and because we both experience each side of the workforce, we can kind of share our own personal things that we went through, and then it'll really depend on what your financial needs are, your work schedule, and just like your lifestyle, I think, to see what's more better for you.
Yeah, it's all about the lifestyle and what fits your schedule. So I'm gonna start off with the bomb. You have worked in a employee setting, corporate office, worked for some company for pretty much your whole life,
Right.
right?
Ever since I was 18.
And just recently, when we started doing more in-depth YouTube stuff, you started working for yourself, right?
Right.
So after all these years of working for a company, would you ever go back doing that?
I think it depends because the reason that I ended up leaving my corporate job to start being at home was because we had that flexibility and because we had kids. And I never thought that I would have been the person to like be a stay-at-home mom or just to be at home with my kids. I actually thought that you would be the one doing that.
Yep.
But yeah, I think as of right now, because they're still so young, that I would still be at home and try to figure out work from home. But at the same time, when the kids get older, like I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what's gonna change with my career. Am I gonna want to get out of the house more often because now they're going to school full time, right? So they're
Yeah.
not really home.
But what does getting out of the house mean?
Well, going back to work like in an office setting.
But you can still do that working for yourself,
That's true.
right? Let's say you want to get out of the house more
Mm-hmm.
and you don't want to work for a company. And maybe you're like, you know what? I want to open up a shop, or I want to start a beverage place or a restaurant or a fitness shop, whatever. Now you're going out, you're finding yourself a place,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're buying things. You now are there at your shop, right? Or whatever it is. Like
Right.
you don't have to go. Why does your thought go straight into working in an office to get out of the house?
I think because that's what I'm used to. And also, I think one of the major differences with like owning your own business versus going to work at like in an office setting, I think one thing that I do miss ever since I've been working from home is that I miss the work environment and the coworkers. Because usually a lot of people, when they say that they go to work, it's mostly their coworkers that they enjoy spending time with,
Mhm.
and like being able to socialize and stuff like that. So
That's true. I think at every company I've worked for, there's at least been one or two work BFFs. And it
Exactly.
makes it so much more fun. And you look
Yep.
forward to going to work, taking breaks with them and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Yeah, and then when I was working in the office, it's like you have these mandated breaks that you have to take, right? So you're kind of forced to take those breaks, which is actually really good for you. But then when you're working at home, you're just kind of working all the time, and you put everything else on the back burner. Like you're not going to be like, okay, well, I'm gonna take this break and go take a walk outside, like in the neighborhood, right?
You can.
You can, but what is the chance of that happening? Because I'll tell myself, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should just go for a walk around the neighborhood for a little bit, and then I just don't. Because I'm like, oh, well, I could be doing this right now, or this comes up because you're at home, so you're like dealing with your work stuff. But then once you're done with work stuff, you're like, okay, well, I got stuff that I have to do like around the house.
Well, you're talking about working from home
Yeah,
and not working for yourself.
right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if you're working for yourself, it doesn't have to be at home. You
Mhm.
could have an office, you can go to Starbucks or whatever. Working from home is 1000% more distracting.
Yes.
I think everyone says that, when they do remote work from home, you're probably not doing much of your work. You're going to cram as much work as possible in a little amount of time, and then the
Yes.
rest take care of everything else in the household. So working from home is not ideal, but yeah, sometimes you have to go get an office somewhere.
Yeah. And I don't know, like just I feel like there are a lot of pros and cons to working for someone rather than like working for yourself.
Like what?
I mean, with working for a company, um your I guess the it's the consistency. Right? So it's like you have a consistent schedule, your work hours are set. So then you
I
get
don't
to
like that.
Well, I mean, for you, everyone's different. Like, that's just not something that you like, right? But for most people, they like those like consistent set hours because they can work 9 to 5, go home, and that's it. They can do
Yes,
whatever they want.
that
They have
part's
that
cool.
free time. Yeah.
Right.
So it's like you don't have to bring that work home with you. But when you're working for yourself and you have your own company, like those hours just vary. Like, yes, there's a great flexibility to it. Like you can create
Yeah.
your own schedule. But then when that happens, you kind of just find yourself working longer hours and
I
putting
don't-
more time into work.
I don't think right now it's being compared apples to apples. This is kind of apples to oranges. So when you have a set schedule for a company, the company has departments and hundreds of people working with them, which is why after a certain amount of time you can clock out because someone else is going to take over, right? Or everyone stops working. But that's because it's a collective of an entire company that allows you to stop and the next day pick up again. So when you're working for yourself, you can't really stop unless you have the ability to hire a whole team under you, and then you can stop. So until you can compare working for a company or owning a company, then it can kind of be apples to apples.
Right.
But we're talking about a company with 100 to a one-man operation, and obviously the workload is way different.
Yeah,
right?
because you're the owner, you're the CEO, you're the HR person, you're the accountant, like you're doing all these things. So that's why it ends up being more work.
So I think we're being biased about working for yourself because a lot of people actually do it in a way where they can stop half the day. They do hire out a whole team, and they're not, doing everything by themselves.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's more so of like the people who are on the fence, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, should I just leave my corporate job and just go like start my own business, right? Whether it's like just a hobby or it's like doing some like crafts or being on Etsy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's like you just have to understand that once you jump into that, like you have to hustle hard like in the beginning because it takes more money to be able to start whatever company it is that you want to do initially.
Yeah.
And you're putting in all those hours to try to get it to that point where you no longer have to work so much.
So if you're a business trying to create something brand new, that's what's the hustle is coming in, right? But if you're taking over a business or doing a franchise or doing some sort of brick and mortar, then you do have more of a normal schedule, unless it's like a full on restaurant that serves breakfast, lunch, and dinner,
Right.
stuff like that. So, but yeah, I agree with you. It's a lot working for yourself. But here's one thing that I don't like about the company is I don't like to go to sleep at night and say, "Oh god damn, I gotta wake up at 9 in the. I gotta wake up at like 7 in the morning to get to work by 9." Like
That's what I hated.
every day is like, oh, I got work tomorrow, at 9 a.m. and things like that. Like that, I hate that part.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
I think that's one of the reasons why I was just like, I can't do this anymore, because it became so repetitive, and you like you were saying too, like you just have this set schedule that it gets kind of boring at the same time, because you're like every day, okay, go to work, come back, get ready for bed, get my clothes ready for the next day,
right?
and it's like repetitious
So
until
it
the
has its
weekend.
pros and cons, right?
Right.
It's like I don't like the schedule and the repetitiveness, um, but the consistency is kind of nice in terms of I don't have to use so much brain power. It's more like zombie mode. Go to work, make money, come home, do what I
Yes.
want, and you just get to be a zombie without having to stress over anything else besides your position, right? And so that's the beauty of it when you work for a company.
Yeah, people love that. They like to just be able to do what they have to do and then be done, and that's it. Like they don't really
Yeah,
care.
but I think a lot of times when people work for a company that they don't have a passion for and it's
Mm-hmm.
just to make money, they just have a good job. Um, it's almost like by the time you clock out, you don't really want to do shit either. You're like, oh man, I just want to relax now.
Like go home and do nothing pretty
Right.
much.
So you're not really going out and doing things unless it's just the weekend. Right.
Yeah.
So what I like about working for myself is that every night when I go to sleep, I'm like, all right, so I'll wake up at set my alarm for 10. I'll set my alarm for 8, and every day is different. And I could be like, you know what? In the morning I'm going to try and work out, maybe not. I'm gonna do something else. I'm gonna go get a haircut
Mm-hmm.
first or whatnot. So there's so many every day is different.
That's true,
And I like that. And I get to
when you're
set it
yeah.
right before I fall asleep.
Yeah, because when you're working for another company or for someone else, you're like, okay, well, I gotta go to work and I gotta be there for 8, 9 hours.
Yeah.
After I'm done with work, then I'm gonna try to get a workout in and do this and that. And then by then you're like exhausted, right?
Right.
So it's kind of like sacrificing your own needs or having to push
Yeah.
yourself to like find the energy to
Like
do what you want to do.
sometimes we're laying in bed and we're watching Netflix and we're like, it's 11. Should we watch till 12? All right, maybe tomorrow I don't have anything too important, so I'll
Yeah.
stay a little bit later and watch Netflix with you.
Yeah, that's true. Because when I was working in my corporate job before too, it's like the commute it wasn't so bad because it wasn't that far. But then when we were in California, like in LA specifically, the traffic was just so crazy getting to work that, you have to wake up super early. It takes you like an hour. And I used to love driving all the time. But after being stuck in traffic all the time on a daily basis, going through that same routine every day, like it kind of drove me crazy.
Right.
So that just like I don't know. It made it so much more difficult, and you're already dreading the drive. And then once you get through that, and then you get to work, you're like, oh man, I'm drained already. That was like so frustrating.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was just me, but like, yeah, I just didn't like that part of it anymore.
So far we talked about the benefits of working for yourself is being flexible in your
Mm-hmm.
time and that your time can really be set at any moment,
Right.
right? But the beauty of working for a company is you don't have that stress level.
Right. Because you can kind of detach from your work. For the most part, you're supposed to be able to, right? Um, but
Here's the other thing that makes a difference though. So when you're working for a company, you can detach because you don't give a fuck about the company,
yeah.
right? You really don't care. But when you work for yourself, there's passion in it, there's inspiration and motivation. So that's one of the big factors and drive to why you don't stop and cut it hard at like 5 p.m.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you have that passion in your business that you're doing.
Yeah, and it's more fulfilling too because you know that you're working for yourself. So all that hard work and time that you're putting into it, like you can see it in the results of like whatever your business is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you always think you were going to work for a company your entire life?
Yes. Because that's what I was always taught to do. Even like with my family, right? For the last episode, we were talking about college and our life plan and what we thought was going to happen in the future. But like at one point when I thought that college was not going to be for me, because I couldn't get back into college, right? The school system's crazy. And my mom and dad were just like, just apply for a government job. Like some of them don't require a college degree and you can just work your way up. You'll be set. You'll have set hours. You'll get benefits. All these things, right? So it was just something that was always like a backup plan for me. Like this is what you can just do the rest of your life and just like cruise by.
How did that sound to you when your parents say that to you? Because when my parents told me stuff like that, all I hear is blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't want to do that shit. Like to you, were you like, yeah, that sounds great?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because there are a lot of like pros to working for a company too, because it's that consistency again. Like you get consistent pay, you get to clock out at a certain time and you're done.
Okay, so someone who actually likes working for a company and those things, it's like when you hear all those benefits, you're like, wow, I love that.
Yeah, because everything is so expensive. Like you get paid time off. You get paid to go on vacation. You get paid when you're sick. There's paid leave time for like maternity leave, right? There's all these benefits.
That's the difference between our work lives, because when I hear that shit, I'm just like, fuck that. I don't want to do that shit for the rest of my life.
Yeah, but then I mean, pros and cons to things. I feel like
every time they say, oh, this job's got a good 401k, they will match this and that. I'm like, fuck that. I'm gonna go do some other stuff myself and do that as my retirement.
And that's fine. I think not a lot of people think like that. I feel like the majority of the people like just having that like work-life balance in a way. To them, that's work-life balance. Yeah. Just being there and then coming home and doing their own thing. But like if you're talking about like health benefits, health insurance is so expensive, and to be able to get your vision, your dental, life insurance, the 401k, like you get a retirement plan, right? And all of that sounds good because a lot of people like to have that structure and have these things put into place for them already, rather than like when we were trying to find our own health insurance. When I stopped working for my company, I was just like, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. Like I don't even know how to look for these plans, because all of the times that I was working for a company, I was the one managing the health insurance and trying to shop around for it. But it was so different having to look for it in a group company setting compared to like individual setting. Yeah, so I was just like, oh my gosh, this is a lot, I
mean, I had to do that almost my whole working career because half the time I'm working in a restaurant.
Yeah, and I think because for you, like you have just always been an entrepreneur, your dad is an entrepreneur, and I feel like that was just the lifestyle that you're used to,
Well, it was like my childhood years, from toddler to teenage, I witnessed my dad running his own businesses.
Yeah.
Right? I witnessed my mom doing VP level corporation stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so from like 15 to 20, I don't know, maybe 25, I was actually working companies for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like working for a restaurant, working in an office, whatever. And then from 25, it was just like, bam, I'm going to do my own business.
Yeah, like you knew what you wanted to do because you got to experience both.
Well, because I knew that when, during the office settings, when I was working between like 15 and 21, I just needed to make money to pay rent.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But from 21 to 25, I was like, let's work at all the restaurants where I want to learn all the in and outs. So now I can open my own restaurant. So I was working at all the ones where I love the menu, I love the recipes, and I'm going to take those with me. I'm going to change it. I'm going to add my flavors and whatnot, right? Because that's what it's about. When people like foods from other places, they explore, and then they make it their own, and they have their own menus and whatnot, right? So that was my mindset. So starting at 21, I didn't even finish college yet. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to work at all these shops and try to learn things.
Mm-hmm.
I even thought about, should I go work at Tapioca Express so I could learn how to make boba? Things like that. how to, working at a ice cream shop, so I know how to make ice cream.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wanted to do all that stuff. So working for a company to learn to start my own stuff, that was kind of my mindset. Now that you have done both sides, I don't know, did you say what you liked more?
Uh,
I don't think you fully experienced uh doing your own business yet outside of YouTube. YouTube
yes.
is a crazy business within itself.
Yeah, because growing up, like my parents, they had their own business, right? And that was kind of a different experience because when I saw that, I think it made me not want to do it just because of all the work hours that they were doing. They're working every day. They're like working 7 days a week, every single day for like what, 12 hours.
Right.
And that kind of was the reason why I was like, I don't want to do this. I just want to work in an office or just work for another company. Um, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to say which I like more of, because the thing that I liked about working for a company was that like I was saying before, that you can just cut off when you need to clock out, go home, and you don't take your work home. But then I didn't realize that once like I started getting more deeper into my career, that job became so stressful, and I was taking that job home with me. Do you remember those times? And it was so stressful that like I couldn't just completely cut off, because everything that I went through every day at work, like it came home with me because of all the things that I had to deal with. And that was probably the reason why I decided to leave, because like I no longer was able to like separate that toxic work life with my personal life. But honestly, like I feel like being able to work for yourself, it does feel more fulfilling. And even though like I'm talking about the longer work hours, you don't get like weekends off like completely free, right? Because there's always something to do. I still feel like this, like being able to work for yourself is just more exciting in a way, and you get to do more of what you want to do.
So the way we run our YouTube business, we have only scratched the surface. We do not run it like a full on business just yet. We do have our departments, but we don't schedule it to work and operate as a business should, right? So when you talk about, on the weekends, we still do stuff. Every day we kind of do things. But if we were to operate it like a full on business, for example, this podcast, right? We shot one today, we shot one yesterday, we shot one the day before, but if you want to operate it like a business, you wake up at 7 a.m., you shoot 3 to 4 episodes, and you cut off. Now you have a set schedule, right? The next day, you go shoot like 3 or 4 vlogs. That's it. That cuts off. So every day you can cut off at 5 p.m. if you want. Then you have your weekends to do whatever you want. But we don't set our operation within a work company's timeline. We kind of like do a little bit here, a little bit there, and we just sprinkle it throughout the week.
Yeah, and I think that's the challenging part for people who would want to consider working for themselves, because when you're working for a company, you have that structure, and you know what the expectations are, and then you have people monitoring you and like making sure that you're like doing things right.
That's what's hard, because for me, I want to structure it that way.
Yeah.
Right. But because you do half the stuff as stay-at-home mom, and I know that at night you do a lot with the kids, you're pretty tired every day. So for me, if I was to structure it to you and be like, hey, we got to do these things and shoot 3 episodes a day, I don't think it fits your schedule. And then for me as your husband to tell you that I'm not your boss, so it would come off so much differently, to where now there's problems and whatnot. So it gets pretty difficult. So that's why the way we run things here is just a lot of light sprinkling throughout the week to accommodate that.
Yeah, and that's like another huge factor to take into consideration too, because I feel like most people who try to run these businesses or do it with their partner, like it can be very challenging, because you're trying to work with someone that is also your partner that you're around like 24/7. So it's like trying to having to find the balance between like the work part of it and the personal part of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it changes the dynamic of the relationship.
I mean, it just depends if people are on the same page or not. Um, Most people are not on the same page, which is okay, and you still have very great supportive team, and it works. But when you have the ones that are on the same page, things get to the next level. So it really just depends how people what they want for the business, the growth, and all that stuff. For us, we're pretty happy with what we get to do. We work for ourselves. We get to make our own schedules. After this, we get to eat lunch with the kids because they're on summer break. And then they have a swimming class in like probably in an hour, right? So it's like, and then after that, we get to do more stuff with the kids, and it's this is awesome.
Yeah.
It's a great way to be with the kids, right? It's like there's people that probably think like, oh man, all you do is work when the kids are home. Well, yeah, right now we are working while the kids are somewhere in the house. But after this, we get to spend all the time with them,
Yep.
So it's when you work for yourself, the one thing I learned is that convenience is more important than money. So, meaning that you need to pay for the convenience. So, for example, if I was still running this as a solo person, after this podcast, I will need to go edit it. It'll take a couple hours and all this stuff. Then I need to upload it, then work on some other stuff and whatnot. And yeah, now my whole day is gone and I didn't even spend it with the kids, right? But now we have an editor that we pay, right? So we get to spend time with the kids.
Yep.
Same thing, like when you're working from home and you're like, man, there's so much stuff to do at home. I got to clean the house because it's a mess. Well, if you pay that out, then you can focus on working, right? So convenience is much more important when you're working for yourself, but it comes at a high price.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Most people don't want to put in the money to hire workers.
But right? Why not? Why not?
I don't know, because you're just like, oh, I'm self-sufficient. I should just be able to do it. We can kind of save money and use it for other things.
How much are you saving if you do that?
I'm not sure. Because how much is a cleaning person? They charge what?
Let's just say $300.
300, and then usually they'll come in, I don't know, like supposedly they're supposed to come in like every 2 weeks, right? To maintain the house.
$600.
Yeah. So then if you're calculating it for the year, right? It's like a good chunk of money. That's like money that can go towards the business.
Okay, I mean, what's 600 times 12?
I don't know.
Well, man, we the last episode we just did was Asians bad at math.
You know what I mean? I can't do that.
So 10 times 600 is what?
Well, I'm just gonna do 600 times 12. Okay, I was right, but I didn't want to say it and be wrong. But it's 7,200
for someone to clean the house. Right?
Yeah, for the year.
Now, if you ran a brick and mortar somewhere or an office somewhere and you're working for yourself and you hire these people, you would be paying a lot more than that for someone to clean your office.
Right.
Right. So, when you think about like paying out $7,000, which sounds crazy for someone to clean your house, I don't know if that $7,000 will really do anything for the business, but the time of that $7,000 could have made you do so much more than what you can do with $7,000.
Yeah.
What can you do with $7,000? Really? Tell me what you can do with $7,000.
It can go towards the kids' school.
Yeah, but there's already money going towards their school.
True.
You're just talking about with that extra $7,000, we
can go towards food, right? Our mortgage.
Well, okay. So the only thing that I hear is that $7,000 is going towards better food every day.
Yeah.
That's all I hear, right? I mean, we already eat decent food every day, so it's only to better the lifestyle, but it doesn't change anything, right? But all that time from the year, if it takes them 3 hours to clean and that's twice a month, that's 6 hours a month times, I don't know, 12. What is that? Like an extra 2 weeks of working days or 3 weeks of working days. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Damn. That doesn't even calculate, dude. 7,000 for a couple extra working days. But
That's all
basically,
I don't know.
when you think about cleaning your house and then going back to work, you cannot. You're tired.
Yeah.
And your mind is not there. So you can get a full days of work every day consistently. And that's worth more than, I don't know. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So when you calculate, $7,000 for that, you calculate, perhaps getting delivery food, Grubhub food every day instead of making food. That saves you time. You could easily spend an easy like 20,000 a year to make your life more convenient. And that's not even the price of one salary for a person to work for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's just to free up your time to do what you got to do.
Yeah. True.
But that will take your business to the next level. And people don't want to give up that money.
Yeah.
What's 20 grand going to do for me in the year? I mean, if you think about adding up, okay, like in 5 years, that was 100,000. I don't know, 5 years, what is that 100,000 worth? I don't know. I'm pretty sure in 5 years, I could have made my business take off like crazy.
True, but then you also have to take into consideration the risk of running a business too, because I think that scares a lot of people because you don't know if it's going to be successful or not. So if it's like you're trying to invest this money that you already are like holding on to so dearly, like you don't know if it's going to work out, if you're going to grow it, or if it's going to fail. So
one recommendation I have is that if you're in that mindset of like, I don't know if we should do this or not.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people. I highly recommend you try to go 100% for as long as you can, meaning a couple months or 1 year. Just try and go 100%. I think the mistake that I make in a lot of my things that I do is that I go 80%. Even though I do 100% in terms of efforts, in terms of commitments, I go like 80% in it. And I think that's a mistake that I need to learn from, because if I went 100%, put 100% of funds into what I'm doing, 100% into just growing the business, we would definitely be at a different place. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If I spent all my money to hire a team, all my money to train people, all my time, it would be way different. So you must go 100% to see the capabilities of your business growth. Because if you do that and it still doesn't do anything, then yeah, that's not a good idea.
Yeah,
but you gave it a shot.
Can happen, so.
Right? But if you're like at 80% cruising, then your business is just going to be kind of cruising and it's not going to get where you want. So there's a lot of there's just a lot.
Yeah, you just have to hustle. And some people just don't really feel like they have the need to hustle, and they can just be productive at their workplace, and then that's it, and then still make good money. So it just depends on what you want to do with your life.
So do you think that I would ever go back to working for a company?
I don't think so.
Why not?
I don't see you being in that work setting, and I don't think you can do it. I think
the only time I can quote unquote work for another company is it'll get as close to as partnering up with someone.
Yeah.
And letting them structure it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, sure, buddy.
Just so that you could be hands off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with whatever you do, work wise, you have to have like a say in whatever it is. Like you can't just sit back and just be like, okay, well, I'm just gonna do whatever the company says and that's it. Like that's just not you. Yeah.
What if I gotta? You know what? Here's a funny thing. A couple of months ago, I was looking at jobs with the company. I was looking up, okay, let's make some extra money here, and I went on UFC's website, and I was like, all right, let's see what they got. And they had some, stuff about social media, videographers, photographers, whatever it is. And, we've been doing that for 8 years now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, damn, I'm actually really qualified for these jobs now. And then I started thinking about all the stress from working for a crazy company like UFC, all the hounding, all of the demand. And I was like, you know what? Fuck that. I do not want to work for any company that's going to be so demanding anymore.
Yeah, and it's like cool. You get to say that you're working for this huge company and all these, like, there's so many perks to it, but at the same time, it's like you're still working for someone else.
Yeah, it's like I will do my best and I will actually like it, but at the same time, I'm gonna be like, for what?
And then
what is all for?
And can you see yourself being at your job, like with them, like, and having set hours or whatever it is? And
I can. It's just at the end of the day, like, what am I working so hard for?
Yeah, you're helping someone else to succeed. Like, you're building your portfolio at the same time.
And that they say the next day you could die and you'll be replaced.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it is. Yeah.
Or you'll get fired and you get replaced.
Pretty much.
Like, so what are you working so hard for another company?
That is the fear of working for another company. You can easily just be replaced and let go and lose your job. And yeah.
Here's another thing that a lot of people don't think about, okay? They always say, I don't want to work for myself or start a business because I'm afraid that I will fail and I'm going to lose it all. Right? That's what they think.
That's the biggest fear for most people.
So how come nobody has a fear that if they lost their job, they have lost everything? You're one job away from not having any money.
Because you can easily just find another job.
Well, why can't you do that if you fail your business?
Because it takes more time to figure out what kind of business you're trying to do again. And then you have to...
No. I'm not saying to start another business again. I'm saying if I went from a company, quit, started a business, it failed, I can go back to another company. If you are capable of trying a business and failing, you're capable of getting any job after that.
True. But I think a lot of people are just afraid of that, of going through that. Like, they'd rather just be conservative and not take that risk.
I guess it's losing your savings is what it is, because your savings you put into the new business. But keep in mind, one job is one step away from what they say being homeless. I see that across social media all the time. If you get fired or whatever it is, then what? You have no more money coming in.
Yeah, but I feel like it's just easier. Once you lose a job, you just go in and start applying for other jobs, and you can just get any other job too. It might not be as fulfilling or as great of what job you just had, but it's still a lot easier to be able to just apply and get hired by another company.
What makes me confident about starting a business is that if I fail, I can go get a job in McDonald's if I want to.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So what fear do I have? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you'll be okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. What are you laughing about?
I don't know. I'm just running on a few hours of sleep from dealing with the kids. So I'm like, what are you saying?
So okay. So yeah. So last night, Enzo did not allow us to sleep. He kept waking up. He was like being, I don't know. He was dreaming a lot, kicking us in his sleep.
He kept slapping me in his sleep, and he's like, "Don't do that." And I'm like, "Stop!" And then he would like kick me, and then at one point, I don't know if he had like allergies, but he just kept blowing his nose, and he just kept asking me for tissue, and I'm like, "What is going on?" And then after you fell asleep, then I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna, dude, do you want allergy medicine? I'm gonna go down and get it." Like, that was the last thing I was trying to do. And then he's like, yeah. And I went down to get it, and I came back up, and then he fell asleep.
Yeah. And now you're tired from doing that all night. And so now imagine if you're working for a company and you're like, damn, I got to be at work by 9 a.m.
Yep.
You're going to hate your life at that moment. And then now that you're struggling at work and can't keep up with your work, you could probably get fired.
Yes. And I feel like that's kind of like how I started getting a taste of that, right? Because it's like having a baby and then, oh no, my maternity leave is over. Like I only got to spend 3 months with my baby and she's still so small. And now I got to go back to work and focus on work 100% and like be tired from like midnight feedings and taking care of her and all of these things and like still have to put in 100% at work. I was like, I can't do this. Like
Right.
it's hard. Like how do moms do this? Like it's crazy.
So that's why we don't operate our business like a company, right?
Yeah.
We just sprinkle throughout the week.
Yep.
And we do it because of these reasons, because we have our kids.
Things come up
So,
every day. Every day is different.
This is why I like working for myself instead of a company.
Yeah.
It's like,
You're right.
even though I am tired from last night because of Enzo, I am not stressed. I think if I'm at work right now in an office, I am stressed.
Yeah, I'd be sitting there drinking like, I don't know how many cups of coffee trying to get by.
Because the work is still piling up at the office.
Right.
But today we can be like, you know what? We'll just do a little bit and then tomorrow we'll get back in it.
That's true. Yep.
So.
Yep.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. We didn't go too deep on a lot of the pros and cons of working details, I guess, for a company and stuff like that. It is more of like the pros and cons from our experiences and what we can, share with you guys. So I hope you enjoyed that part. If you guys like this episode, make sure to follow and subscribe on all podcast platforms, Spotify and YouTube. You guys can comment and also rate us. So please go ahead and do that after this. And we'll see you on the next episode of Love and Rice Podcast.
Bye-bye.